Well, it's 6:30, so we call the meeting to order. Let's rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 3, any changes or additions to the agenda? Item 4, consent agenda.
I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, personnel. Approve hire Savannah Higginbottom, middle school volleyball coach.
I move the board approve the hire of Savannah Higginbotham, middle school volleyball coach.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Savannah Higginbotham, middle school volleyball coach. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5B, approve the hire of Heather Barrella, assistant cook.
I move the board approve the hire of Heather Marilla, assistant cook.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Heather Barrella, assistant cook. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 5C, approve unpaid leave, Sue Holt.
I move the board approve the unpaid leave request of Sue Holt, teacher.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the unpaid leave of Sue Holt. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No one signed up for public comment. John, you want to say anything?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe later.
Okay, unfinished business, item 7A, adopt policy 3205, sexual harassment of students.
I move the board approve policy 3205, sexual harassment of students.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt policy 3205, sexual harassment of students. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business?
So the first one I'd like to bring for the board's consideration is staff complaints, considering when we get staff. Some of our policies are kind of spread out in this regard, or they're really not very clear. We had a couple of situations last year where I think it would have been much more beneficial if we, is that a bug? Because that's not my cursor. Okay. Had some steps that were prescribed and to really guide, citizens and parents through the process. So I took this together, kind of researched what other districts and organizations had out there. So hopefully I had a chance to read through this. Just a couple of the highlights. It encourages the problems to be resolved at the lowest level. In other words, go to the source first. If that's not successful, then go to the building administrator who would then sit with the parties and work up through the chain of command. Complaints really can be made at any level, but it's always advised that it goes back to the lowest level. There's different kinds of complaints. It can be just a verbal complaint or a more written formal complaint. We always, when possible, like to have the complaint in writing for a couple of reasons. It's only fair that the complainant knows exactly what's being said, but it also puts a little more teeth into it, in that if you feel strongly enough about this, you should be able to put that concern in writing. If there are serious allegations, of course, they're investigated by either internal or external sources. Then at the next part, this is really the procedural piece, but I think this was something that was really not clearly defined before, and it outlines the steps. It starts at the lowest level with the staff, goes to the administrator, involves the parents, the child, and then finally maybe to the superintendent or board that can't be resolved, or maybe through legal recourse if it's even stronger than that. And then also put together a couple intake forms so there's actual clear documentation of the complaint. It's just for first read, but I think this will help to have something specific so both parties involved can actually see what things are going. Are there questions or?
So this is just concerning complaints that students or parents may have regarding staff.
Right. There's a curricular component which is in the 2000 series. So we have something, but it's just very brief. And just something more. The second one is about district cell phones. I had sent the board the original policy, which is very small in scope, and it just says basically if the person with a district phone makes a call that need to go through their bill every month and figure out the cost and then pay back the district. And what I would like to propose is something a little more liberal. We have very few staff who actually have district cell phones, and most of those people, you know, start their day in the dark and get home in the dark. They're program directors or principals who like them to be available, and you know, realizing that there is going to be a time in their 10 or 12 hour day where they may need to touch in with home, and I feel like if doing so doesn't incur a cost for the district, that I think we should be fine with that. And I did some other checking in cities now, and state agencies have more gone to this type of thing rather than asking people maybe to carry 2 phones, and most of our people with these phones are pretty much on call all day. So I'm hoping we could provide a little more latitude there. And basically, in essence, this says if the staff member is incurring the cost to the district, then it would be reimbursed. And we also added language about our district phones are public to public records requests or subject to public records requests. We use appropriately, obviously. Something I'd like to throw out for consideration.
So would it be like the computer use type of thing?
There is another policy, yeah, specifically for computer use, but
Right.
if you,
Would that-
yeah, if
be what
you
we'd be looking at.
have your smartphone and you're employee and you're looking at pornography or whatever, the same rule would apply.
Do work contracts, are they typically paid by the minute, or are they on use type contracts?
No, they're usually about 400 minutes for talk and about a half a gig for data. Some people are on shared plans, so there might be 700 talk minutes between 3 employees. The bus drivers have their own little plans, and they're just a basic talk phone. Yeah, it's not real clear how it's set up. There's people on group plans, people on individual plans. But our last Verizon bill was in the negative. I mean, we have a credit of 1,032 or 4, I don't remember the exact number, but it's 1,000 something. And so, just,
I know you looked at August to look at that. Have you, has there been anybody look at, like last year, where the minutes, you know, how close we were the times that we used them close?
not really. I mean, I go through them every couple months, or, you know, when we get the bills, we look through them and see how we're doing, but most of it is, a lot of it's like text. You know, we'll just text back and forth, or, you know, we'll call Alan once in a while, he'll call me, and we use our cell phones for that rather than, it's not long distance to the camp, but if he's on the road or I'm in Vancouver, or even dealing with parents, we often will use our cell phones because we're, you know, if the district's already paying for the phone, then why use the landline for long distance? So, yeah, we have adjusted them a couple times, but usually we're adjusting them down because we're paying for a lot more minutes than we're using. With a $1,000 bill, it's gonna, you know.
Yeah.
we kind of get stuck in it, so see what else we got in here. Just basically, if an employee incurs a charge on the district, the employee pays. But within that latitude, an occasional personal call, I would like to suggest is okay.
It's unlikely that one personal call would put us over.
Oh, yeah, it'd have to be some kind of number that's unauthorized.
So if they're trying to avoid carrying two phones, then how do they make their personal calls?
Well, either landline or mostly, I mean, it might be occasional personal use, but it says clearly in here it's not for, every day.
But most people then would have a second cell phone for their personal use. I mean, if you,
Some people do. There's only, I think, 5 people with district cell phones right now. So you have maintenance, so if there's, emergency situation, transportation, the 2 principals, and the bus drivers. But the bus drivers don't carry those. They stay in the bus garage. So,
Those are the ones we set out on the bus stairs.
yep,
Like on the buses. that make
just for basic flip phone.
Right.
Questions? Other questions? Yeah. That's all for those.
Item 8C, approve surplus of buses number 2, which is a 99 Thomas bus with 204,812 miles, and number 8, which is a 97 Thomas bus with 206,452 miles.
I move the board approve the surplus of 1999 Thomas bus number 2 with 204,812 miles and 1987 Thomas bus number 8 with 206,452 miles.
It's been moved and seconded to approve surplus of buses number 2 and number 8. Is there any discussion?
and the plan is to replace one of those buses?
At least one, within this year sometime.
And right now, we just have, they're sitting, those 2? So we'd still have an extra bus?
Yeah, it's up 2 spares. Yeah.
So do we normally put these out to bid?
We've done multiple things. We can do sealed bids, there's a statewide kind of surplus list, or we scrap it. The last bus we actually scrapped, they came and picked it up and gave us $500. I know, it seems like a shame, but they were selling them for much less, so that was the best deal. Yeah. You could probably get it and scrap them. I mean, somebody should make a bid on it and sell it themselves. The parts and motors. Because once they come off the depreciation list, it doesn't really behoove the district to keep them on there because you don't get money for them. They're excess, and if you do use them, it's more maintenance than you're going to bring in. So.
Any other discussion? Been moved and seconded to approve the surplus of buses number 2 and number 8. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, principal and staff reports.
Karen's gone this evening, but I'll just give a quick report. Somebody had asked for Mandarin information. I don't remember which one of you it was. So these are the numbers to date. The first number represents the number opting into Mandarin, and the second half is the number of total students in that grade. So you can see 17 out of 26 kindergartners, 17 out of 30 first graders, 15 out of 36 second graders, and 10 out of 24 third graders. Next month, Karen will have the test data that she wasn't going to report out on, but she had to take care of some personal business.
10 for the third grade, that seems like a larger number than what we were projecting. I thought we were projecting something like 8.
Yeah, it does seem like that. I'm not sure if that's the specific grade, but one student who had opted out later in the spring last year went back in. And I think she's about that age. But
Start with the test results. Start with the bad. doesn't go to the good news. You can kind of recover. Smarter balance, we got beat up on that one. Whole new test. Well, I'll just go over the results. So we had 44 youth assessed in ELA, math, or both. 2 passed the math test, 8 passed the English language arts. I mean, it was just horrible compared to our results we've gotten on the history. And basically, it's just not the kind of test that you're going to have kids for a matter of a couple months and prepare them for. And so that is stacked against us. We've got to be real about that. I mean, there's just our average length of stay, I kind of made a note here, is 112 days. So that's the average length that we have to prepare kids for the test. And the fact is, a lot of those 44 kids we tested, you know, the average was 112. So a lot of those kids got tested when they maybe only been with us a week or 2 or a couple of weeks. They hadn't been tested before. They hadn't passed the assessment, so they have to take the test. You haven't had them long enough to prepare for it, but you've got to give them the opportunity, because maybe somebody else prepared them. Well, obviously not. And most of them hadn't even been in school. So, you know, it is what it is. We're not going to try and whitewash it. I mean, it was horrible. Way below the success rate we've seen with the other tests. We're going to do the best we can. We're not going to say, oh, well, like we've just got the deck stacked against us, we're not going to try. No, we are. But we're also realistic about what we can do. You take a look at what we did on the history, which technically should be similar results, right? It's an equivalent test, and it's a graduation requirement. If they pass one test, they have to pass the other test. Well, I mean, they had 14 tested in reading and writing. And what you're going to find is you're going to have more and more kids that are taking the smarter balance and less for the history if they phase them out. And so we have 10 out of the 14 pass reading and only 4 fail. So I mean, you got a major difference in the kind of scores that you're seeing. And in writing, we had 11 pass and only 3 fail. That's really high scores for the type of youth that we serve. So we feel really good about our history results. We just are like scratching our heads trying to figure out how we can really address the smarter balance assessment. Part of it is during orientation now, Jackie Wheel, our librarian, is doing the practice test with the kids. So it's the practice smarter balance to get them used to the format, because it's an online test. So every kid gets that as part of their orientation when they move to camp. So these kids that took that test hadn't been their experience yet. Some of them had, some of them hadn't. So that's going to help. But really what you need to do is take what's called an interim test. And that just takes a lot of preparation. And by the time we would get kids ready to even take that interim test, they'd be gone. So I don't know, I don't have the answers. I'm not going to pretend to do it. But that's what we're finding. If you look at our contracts we made for the summer credit, or before I move on to any questions on the testing.
Well, I mean, the other institutions have got to be experiencing the same.
Oh, yeah. 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 And we've always been like the stellar one, you know. And we still are if you look at our history results. But when you look at the smarter balance, I don't know what we're going to do, how we're going to fix that with 112 days of stay.
And that counts weekends, holidays. I mean, that's from the day they walk in the door to the day they leave. And so
Yeah.
that time is transition.
Do you think, I mean, part of it, is it just a different, a whole different format?
Much more rigorous test.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I've taught these kids too, you know, and so I have that side of it. And part of it is we knew what's on the history. But, I mean, Mrs. Baker's a great English teacher. I mean, obviously, we got like 11 out of 14 kids passing. That's really good. But it's just not the kind of skill set you can develop in a kid in a short amount of time. With the history, you can't. I mean, if you give targeted instruction and you're a really good teacher with really tight lessons and you work on skills, you can get a kid to write a good 5-paragraph essay that will pass the state test in a matter of weeks or a couple months, depending on your level. You cannot do that. From what I'm seeing, I don't see how you can do that with the smarter balance. It's just it's just asking so much of kids that then they're just not. That level of rigor is just beyond what we're going to get. But we will do everything we can to catch more kids. You know, but I don't know how, I'm not going to say we're there. So one of the things we did, and our kids are often credit deficit. I mean, they really are behind in their credits when they no credits, or a half a credit. How do you get to be 18 and have half a credit? And then their goal is that, the one that, this doesn't happen anymore, it drives me crazy, they would write on their goals, I want to stay on the graduation track. Buddy, you gotta get on the graduation track, you can't stay on it without a credit. And so I wouldn't even let them say that anymore, that's like stricken from their vocabulary. But, so we had this opportunity for kids to earn some credit over summer. And so they did reading, and I don't know if you know the STAR reading, but it's part of the reading program we use here too. And we find out the reading level. So if they were a 12th grade reader, we'd say, all right, well, you need to earn 10 times that many points with an accelerated reader. So they'd have to read books from the library, and that was a substantial number of books to earn a quarter of a credit. And we don't hand out credits like candy, you gotta work for them. So a quarter of a credit means it's just the equivalent of you were in a class for a quarter. A quarter of a credit. If you're in a class for a whole year, you earn 1 credit. So they would earn a quarter of a credit if they would read the books and pass the test. And the way it works is if it's a 10-point book and you only get 80%, you only get 8 points, you don't get 10. You only get it based on what you earn. So, they had to read a lot of books to get these credits. And we had, out of the 28 kids who made contracts saying they were going to do this, 20 of them actually fulfilled the quarter of credit, which is great. And I think of one kid in particular who just came today, so with such a negative attitude. He actually got a half a credit over something. He got done with his quarter credit, and he said, you know what, can I do it again? And then I'm not going to stand in your way. If you want to accomplish this, you just go for it. And he did, and he did the same thing in our education forum with the online classes. He just really buckled down. He went from like the worst attitude in the camp, which kid I'm talking about, yeah. I mean, he just was a little booger, and he just went and turned his attitude around. I think the rigor, having to work hard, getting something accomplished for your efforts, paid off. So that was neat to have 8 kids earn a half credit. And kind of alternate between good and bad news, I noticed. DNR, they have not been going out at all after the incident where the kid escaped the fire and shot himself. It was just a big, so they locked the whole thing down. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but it has affected our school program. We built a whole night school program around this. The kids being out planting trees, managing forests all day, and they're not doing it. So it's a big impact, and we're going to meet Friday at 12:30 to 2:30. Hopefully we'll have something from DNR on what's going to happen next. I don't know if you saw the NPR, there was an interview with Spencer Morris on NPR talking about fire crews and kids. And they were kind of questioning, well, you said these kids out without any training and a lot of misinformation. No, they're trained just like anybody else. You've got to have a good firefighter's certificate. So I don't know. I keep trying to get that answered. I haven't gotten anything, so I'm just going to say that I keep asking it. When I find out, I'll pass it on to Lisa and she can share it with you.
That's totally up to DNR on that?
Well, actually, I think it's JRA, who's a part of DSHS. They coordinate with DNR, and I don't even, they're not even telling us who's locked down. At this point, I think JRA probably, for liability reasons, just said, we're not going to do this anymore until we come up with a solution on how to keep everybody safe. So, the fact is, we have kids all over the state in group homes. They could run away in the same scenario could happen. Rather than shut down all the group homes, you know what I mean? It's like, we had one incident and the whole program suffering. That's just, it's a knee-jerk reaction, probably just, if they were to have a second incident, it probably could be a barn burner. So they just shut it down until they can figure out how to manage it. And Merlin Serkin is our secretary under Norland's tutelage, and she's making a good adjustment. And you want me to talk about Norland now? Okay. So, Norland. When I thought of Norland, I said, boy, those are going to be some hard toms to fill. Because he's not, it's very talented. And you know what? Merlin is doing a great job adjusting, but nobody's going to be Norland, and she can't try. She's going to be her own person and do a great job. Norland, oh my goodness, this is great. And I remember Robin just going on about Norland having a great secretary. She has That's gonna be a huge loss. And I don't know if you guys realize how much and how long she's done things for the district. She started at Rosberg as a paraeducator back in 1983. I was still in college. Whack, I'll get that one tomorrow. I see, that's like amazing. Yeah, I was in college and she was babysitting my wife. And you know, in typical Northern style, she rose for repair. I had a secretary out there, and she was secretary at Rosberg. And then, was that when Rosberg shut down?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you had to come, you pulled back here, kind of down the hot staff, and she went back to being a parent. She taught computers to grades 3, 4, 5, and 6, and worked in the library. That's
Changed a little since those days.
and it just, you know, there's a lot of lives that school employees touch over the years. So those kids she had, and you know, computers in the library. I mean, there's just all these kids that even know the secretary. I mean, it just, the employees we hire, and you guys hire, make a difference in the community. I mean, especially you get a course all to the other person whose husband shows up, because we don't have to tug of war with it anymore. He gets her all the A, you know, now the kids tug of war with John, you know, who gets the babysitter, or the dog gets to go out and dinner with her. But they make a real impact on the community, and it lasts for generations. I mean, the people we hire, so she's one of those good ones, you know, when you hire and look back, gosh, what a long stretch of time. From 94 to 2015, secretary at the, oh, look at that. Yeah, secretary at the camp school. I mean, from 94. That's cool. That's a long time. She worked with, wow, 9 principals. Dean Carter, Robbie Johnson, Jerry Black, Tom Aldberg, John Newland, Brian O'Connor, Robin Andrea, Lisa Nelson, and myself. I mean, that's a lot of guys that people have to put up with.
Poor girl.
And one girl. That's it.
You were such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, thanks.
It really was, yeah. Great job. I like working with her too. Still do. She's been classified employees union president for at least 10 years at that time. Now that's another deal. You know, if the department to hire the wrong person and then you become union president, wow, that could be an impact too. And when I say that, it isn't because she was always took a company line or something. Because normally that's something with her right from when I heard people. Let me tell you, you knew about it. You know, she would go to bat for people. So it wasn't a pushover thing, but she's just reasonable. You know, she cared about the employee, and she also knew districts, you know, her kids went here. She knows there's limited resources, so you kind of do the best you can for everybody. Reasonable. She negotiated most contracts over those 30 years. She's been on that. That's going to be a gap there. And in 15 years as a GED examiner, about 1,200 kids have been tested. Isn't that amazing? That's a lot of kids.
That's surprising.
Yeah, that's a lot. So we just appreciate the heck out of her. And just to read one little snippet of Robin's nomination, she received the Washington School Classified Employee Excellence Award in 2007. I don't know if you knew that. It was a pretty cool program. They gave $1,000 to classified employees who kind of rose above all the rest and picked the top 30 from over the state. And I was one of those. And Robin said, after he had said all kinds of cool stuff about Ron, he said, you put all that together with a positive and cheerful attitude, and you can get a sense that our staff, students, lodge counselors, and administration are blessed to have Mrs. Pack in the head secretary position. Oh gosh. Yeah, that was. And then at the end it said, Mrs. Pack's diligent and detail-oriented contributions are obvious and vital to the school's success. So she's been a real key asset for a long time. So we've got some cake later at the end that says, try not to get it to smush. Thanks, Norma. You're the best. Happy retirement. So.
I'm glad John's here to witness that.
We just appreciate
what you did in your old place, but JRA is such a different animal, and not someone that's willing to educate you and get you on your feet and give you your start, you know, it could be a really difficult position, so. 9 principals were lucky.
Yes, we are. Instead of saying help, we just call it Norland. And now it's Merlin wrong, so they say Lynn's?
Yeah, well, Norland, I go back on these. I'm just looking around, and I think I'm the only one in the room that went to high school. And, my wife and I have been married for 40 years, and my wife and Norland was my wife's roommate before me.
Oh.
Before we marry our men.
So, anyways, I'm really happy for Norland right now. She gets to spend her time with her husband and her 3 kids and her 8 grandkids. Gets to stay in Hawaii.
Yeah, see, I'm going back to work.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm really pleased.
I've enjoyed working here. It's been a lot of fun. What I've enjoyed is being in this building for a couple of years and then seeing those young people get jobs in the community, some of them at the camp, some of them having kids and bumping into them in town. Remember a boy that I had in 4th grade computer class. He was such a computer geek. And now he's working over at Costco. His name's Brandon. And he's become with it. It's been kind of fun to see those kids grow up and become people.
Okay.
Okay. Get to the cake.
Let's see, board member reports, anybody have anything?
Couple things.
Oh, sorry.
I can skip it. This is just a budget, shouldn't take long. This is, not visible. We are, now this data I'm giving you is, not in the 15-16 we are, but this isn't. We're just closing out, so the books officially close out in October, but this is where we started the month of August. So I'm going to hit the $1 million again, and then in September, October meeting, we should be all closed out and we're starting on the next round. So there, probably too at some point we will be changing the structure of our financial reports a little bit. Working with our new business manager on that. So, very skinny version. Just go over a little bit of our enrollment patterns. The slide on the left half, that is where we stand currently for the month of September. These are FTE, so there's more bodies than that, but these are our full-time equivalents. So we have 290 in K-12, 77 at the camp, and 44 in the virtual school. Now these are as of count date. They jockey around a little bit. This is what we're looking at being reported. Then the next slide over here is a comparison of what this same data would have been a year ago when we started the school year 2014. So you can see there's been a fairly good jump here in the K-12. Camp numbers are running about the same, and the CBA is also up a little bit. I don't think we hit the 44 or 45 mark in CBA till probably December, if I remember correctly. So quite a bit ahead of the game compared to last year at the same time. Thought this one was kind of interesting. It's a little messy, but I'm trying to get the whole scope in there, so I don't know how well you can see it. But let's forget kindergarten for now. But what I did here is, if you look at the gray bars, those are how we would have ended the year last year, and then the blue bars represent how we started this year. So several of our elementary classes had a fairly significant growth. So for example, first grade ended the year at 31, but by the time we rolled into second grade after summer, there were 36 kids in there. Second grade ended at 26. So second grade ended at 26, lost 2 kids over the summer. Third grade ended at 18 and a half, one didn't come it jumped to 21 over the summer. So you can kind of see this pattern holding. For the most part, we picked up quite a few kids over the summer. The reason I put off kindergarten is because I wanted to keep it apples to apples here. So last year in kindergarten, 13 and a half students. Now, that really meant that there were 27, but kindergarten was funded half. So this year, there are 26, but half of that's 13. So you're looking at, one more student last year in kindergarten as compared to this year, but these other grades, for the most part, some pretty good growth over the summer, even, in junior class. And short of 18 students went up to 20. So that's what makes up that difference. So. Back to school barbecue is something we hadn't ever done before, as far as I know. Copied a little page out of the old Rossburg days, and we had great attendance. I don't know if we ever actually had a head count, but we went through all but one box of hamburgers, all but 2 packs of buns. We were running and digging through every shelf looking for plates, and we ran out of about everything. And it was a great night, well attended. We had many hands helping out. I think the parents and the grandparents really appreciated it. So we hope to continue that in the future. Opening day assembly, it's a side shot, but you can see that the bleachers were pretty full. The kids here, their hands up, are giving a shout out to Mr. Macy over here on the end. So it's a nice warm feeling to have everyone back in school. The kids are all excited. I would have to say that this is probably the best start of school I have seen, and this is my 23rd, 24th, I don't know. Been at it a long time, but I've heard a lot of comments from the staff that this year has a little difficult. So we hope to keep that going, have some great new hires. Pretty excited about this year. So. Questions? Comments?
That 32 number in the second grade, or 36 rather.
36.
That's that class size gets mitigated by the fact that the number of the students.
Right. All of these actually, K1, 2, are all mitigated because there's essentially a teacher and a half. In some cases, yeah, for those grades, we blended. Sue Holt has the 1-2 blend, so that split it in half. Karen Nelson made up the other half of kindergarten, so that split that. She's there just when they're all together. When they split out for Mandarin, that's another split on top of that. But a lot of growth in this lower section. We're averaging about 20 students, 20 point something, 3 I think it is, per grade in the K3, and that's the funding. When we look at it, it's a weighted average, is how the state looks at that as far as our teacher ratio per student. So they take all the K3s in there and come up with their number. I think the target is like 22, and we're 20. We don't want to be above that.
Of the 20-some new students that came to the district, is there a common denominator as what brought those kids?
A lot of them are in elementaries, a lot of them coming from the Mandarin program, but some also moved in. Their girlfriends or boyfriends of people who live in the community. They were, one brought 3 or 4 kids. They lived at the beach, but the girlfriend moved in with the boyfriend and brought the kids. And so it's kind of a mixture. Some older kids came back into the community who had been gone for a few years. So it's kind of, Karen would probably have more specifics, but it's good to see the group. Let's see what else. Oh, just a reminder about the WASDA conference, if you have a chance to let me know. I've sent the information on it. Try to get the reservations locked in. This year it's at Bellevue, but it does rotate between Bellevue and Spokane every other year. So, if you let me know on that and get a chance. All right.
Okay. Board member reports and future agenda items. Anyone have anything? Okay. If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move the board adjourn the meeting.